He pressed his face into a toy, and for the first time in his life, he could finally breathe. When I first met Wilson, he was barely 6 weeks old, small enough to fit into my palms, but already fighting for his life. His chest rose and fell in shallow, trembling movements. Every breath sounded like a whistle through broken glass. The shelter worker looked at me and whispered, "He can't breathe through his nose. We don't know how long he can hold on." I remember looking into those cloudy brown eyes that had already seen too much pain, and something inside me said, "He's not giving up, and neither will I." They told me Wilson had suffered a severe injury to his nose, leaving him with an abscess that blocked his airways. To survive, he'd learned to keep his mouth open, sometimes by biting a toy just to hold it there. It wasn't play, it was instinct. That little toy became his lifeline, the one thing that kept him alive. At night, I would sit beside his bed, afraid to fall asleep. His breathing was so rough, so fragile, that I found myself counting each inhale. Sometimes I'd hold my own breath, waiting for his next one. And when it came, I'd whisper, "Good boy, you're still here." We saw specialists, one after another. Most shook their heads. "He'll never breathe normally again," they said. "It's a miracle he's even alive," but I couldn't accept that. Wilson didn't look like a dog ready to give up. He looked like a soul waiting for someone to believe in him. Then one day, a miracle, a specialist, reached out to a surgeon all the way in New Zealand. Together, they created a plan no one had ever tried before, inserting tubes into Wilson's nose, holding them in place with small plastic buttons on his snout for 10 long weeks. It sounded crazy, risky, painful, but it was hope, and hope was something I could never deny him. The day of surgery, I sat in the waiting room for hours, clutching his little toy in my hand. When they brought him back out, his face was covered in tiny stitches, the buttons gleaming under the hospital light. It looked almost silly, but to me, they were the most beautiful things I had ever seen, because they meant he still had a chance. 10 weeks later, they removed the tubes. I held my breath as the doctor smiled and said, "Let's see if he can do it." Wilson sniffed the air, a soft, uncertain sound. Then he froze. His eyes widened. His tail began to wag, slowly at first, then faster, until his whole body shook with joy. That was the moment I realized we'd been so focused on helping him breathe, we'd forgotten something else he'd never been able to smell before. He went wild with happiness. He ran around the garden, nose pressed into the grass, the dirt, the flowers, like a child discovering the world for the first time. He even sniffed me, and I swear he looked at me as if to say, "So this is what you smell like." From that day on, Wilson's world expanded. He didn't just live, he began to love. When we started fostering kittens, I was careful, keeping a small gate between them. But the kittens didn't care. They'd climb over and curl up against him, purring softly. Wilson never moved. He just lay there, eyes half closed, letting them crawl on him, touch his face, even tug on his ears. Sometimes it looked like he was hugging them. And maybe he was. Maybe he understood what it felt like to need comfort. Among those kittens was one we couldn't let go of, a blind little girl who couldn't see the world but could sense his heart. From the moment she met him, she followed him everywhere. When she was scared, she leaned against him. When she slept, she nestled into his fur. Wilson became her protector, her guide, her constant peace. Every vet who meets him calls him a unicorn, a creature too kind, too gentle, too forgiving for this world. After everything he's been through, he could have become bitter, but he didn't. He chose love instead. And that love rippled outward. The kittens he raised grew into confident, fearless cats. Families who adopted them told me they're different. They're brave, social, affectionate. I smile and say, that's Wilson's magic. Because somehow he teaches them what healing looks like, that the world isn't as scary as they thought. Sometimes I watch him lying in the sunlight, the blind cat curled beside him, and I think maybe he's lived many lives before this one. Maybe that's why he understands so much. If love had a face, it would look like Wilson's, patient, wise, and full of quiet grace. People often ask me what Wilson has taught me. I always say this. Healing isn't just about medicine or surgery. It's about faith, patience, and being seen for who you are. Ready for the park, buddy? I ask. He looks up, tail thumping twice, and off we go, breathing, living, and loving every breath we're given.